So, Lone Rider, and I wanted to talk about why 26 is the best mountain bike tire size. Now, this may seem a little controversial because there's a lot of people running 650B now. There's a lot of people still using 29ers. But basically, in my opinion, and of course this is sort of a subjective opinion, but it's informed by objective things I've encountered riding the bike. 26 is still the best overall tire size. Now, it must be said that 26 came about by accident. The first mountain bikes, the clunkers, whatever you want to call them, were based on old Schwinn bikes from the 30s and 40s, and those just happened to have 26-inch wheels. So it wasn't like somebody sat down and did a study and said this is the best size. But for a variety of reasons, I think they are. Right? Even though it was arrived at by happenstance due to improvisation, I think it is the best overall tire size for mountain biking. There's several reasons for this. The first is standover height. 29ers, there's a lot of fit issues intended to average or below average height people, and as the term average suggests, there's a lot of people who are at average height, right? The people who are taller than average or shorter than average are outliers. The average is the average. For those people, especially if they're on the shorter end of average, the larger overall diameter of the wheels means that the bike's higher up, especially in the front end, and you have clearance issues in terms of the top tube. Now this, depending on the geometry and fit of the particular 29er bike, can be addressed, but for some people it's a big problem. Which is one of the reasons why they came out with 650, by the way. I refuse to call them 27.5 because they already have a designation, and they're actually smaller than actual old 27-inch road wheels, so there you go. The second thing is wheelbase. A lot of the trails, especially that have been around for a while, were built when 26-inch was really the only major tire size. So things like switchbacks, tight turns, etc. Weren't designed with the longer wheelbase of a 29er in mind, right? And then there's the larger wheels have more mass, more rotating weight, etc. That's not usually an issue for casual riders, but if you're racing, you're going to be a little slower. However, if you're climbing, if you're going over things, it can be difficult. That's not to say that 29ers don't also have advantages. The larger wheels roll over obstacles better, can make mountain biking less intimidating for novices because of that, etc. There are advantages to it, but there's also a lot of disadvantages. It's a nice option, but should it be the default tire size? I don't believe so, at least not for most people. Then there's 650, which was introduced because of a lot of the problems with 29ers. Why they didn't just go back to 26? Well, they expended a lot of money and marketing time trying to tell people that 26 sucked and was too old. So they couldn't just go back to it. So they came out with a size that was between 29er and 26. And this has some issues. Some of them are similar to 29ers issues, just to a lesser degree. But there's also the issue of backwards compatibility. Not everybody is riding a brand new bike, and not everybody has bike parts that are brand new off the shelf. A lot of people like myself riding older bikes or stuff they've put together in their garage out of a frame and parts. And for us, it's going to be easier to use older stuff that we can find secondhand, whereas the 650 is still new enough that you can find some secondhand 650 stuff, but if you've got a 650B bike and you want parts, a lot of them are going to have to be ordered new. And there's not going to be, let's say you have the frame that you really like or a wheel set that you really like. Well, you may not be able to use that on your new bike if your new bike's 650, whereas a lot of parts could be carried over if it's 26. Then there's sizing issues for shorter or young people, even with 650s. With 26-inch as a normal adult mountain bike tire size, you had a very clear progression. You had a youngster has let's say 20-inch bike, maybe a 24-inch bike if they're going for an intermediary size, and then on to 26. The new wheel sizes would then be the next jumps up. You'd have 650B and then 29er. With 650 being the default size now, what you have is you go right from 24, you skip over 26, and you go to 650. Now, for most people, that's not a problem. The bike's handled differently and whatnot, but it's not a huge problem in terms of the overall height. But if you're talking to a youngster that's getting their first adult bike, and I've been at bike shops where they're sizing, people are coming for their first grown-up mountain bike and they're getting sized, and you gotta wait. You can't buy it. It's too tall. Yeah, that's an issue, right? You're making people wait to get into cycling as far as an adult bike is concerned. That's not cool. Which is why, by the way, some companies are bringing 26 back, at least for entry-level mountain bikes or bikes in smaller sizes. But I think we made a mistake. I think the industry should have kept 26 as the default and should have offered 650 or 29ers as like options, right? The same way a default road tire size is like 23, but then you have other tire size options. You have 25, 28, 32s, etc. In terms of width. So 700 by 23 is the default road size, but you could get other tires if you want. It should have been the same thing with mountain bike size in terms of wheel diameter. They should have stuck with 26, and the other stuff should have been optional. But anyway, that's my take on it, and your mileage may vary, no pun intended, but that's the way I see it. Long Rider out.